All right, we're back for another pre-season podcast at SuperCoach Paige. I'm Paige, and I've got Matt again with me.
Hello.
And look, we're going to kick off today. We've decided to have a look this week at mid-price players and cash cows, which is getting a lot of attention and something that we really need to cover on its own, I think.
Especially with the expensive rookies this year. I know we talked about it in the last podcast with Jesse Hogan and Jack Martin, who are a bit expensive for me, but I think there are plenty of cash cows and mid-prices who are more senior players that are going to be able to get you a lot more money, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's plenty of value about, and I mean, the greatest part about these mid-price players and these cash cows is that a lot of them are underpriced for whatever reason. Most of them are coming back from injury, stuff like that, and
they were traded to a new
exactly,
side.
They were traded to a new club. There's plenty of value to look at, but let's kick things off with the defence. The first one, Hawthorn's Matthew Suckling, injured his knee this time last year and is on the comeback trail and is in line to play in the NAB Cup. $312,200 and averaged in the 80s to 90s when he was up and going.
Lock
him in. He's a bit funny because a lot of people are telling me that with, obviously, as you said, with the pricing of the rookies, it's harder to sort of mix in some of these guys, but with Suckling, you can't overlook him here.
A lot of people say, don't pick too many mid-prices. There's a reason they're mid-price. They're volatile, blah, blah, blah. Suckling is not one of those.
Yep. You
get him in your side and you lock him in and you do not move him and you build your team around him in this high.
And look, he fits straight back into the Hawthorn best 22 without batting an eyelid. So for me, depending on how he goes in the NAB Cup, he should start round one this year. But we did see with a couple of players last year that were coming back from knees, Luke Ball, for example, it took him a bit longer to get over. So just because it's been 12 months now from that ACL doesn't mean he's cherry ripe ready to go. But if he is, I would not even hesitate in picking him.
Not at all.
Moving on from here, another one in the defence line is Sydney's Jeremy Laidler. Now, wasn't played much under Mick Malthouse at Carlton. He's priced at $161,800. Very, very tempting in a sense.
I think
third tall.
Sydney are going to have a better run with their injuries this year because, was it Matner that retired? I think someone...
Marty Matner
retired.
You've still got Ted Richards.
Richards.
Grundy's there too.
LRT had an injury last year, so he
comes back in.
He comes back in, so that's why I'm hesitant.
Xavier Richards too.
Yeah, Xavier Richards. That's why I'm hesitant, though, with Laidler. I think he's a very, very good player, and I have no idea why Mick Malthouse didn't play him. I really like him for that price, but I don't think he's going to get game time, which is sad.
He's a bit of an awkward one because I'd love to see him play a bit of footy to really, obviously, SuperCoach-wise, because he can make you a couple of quick bucks very quickly. But into the midfield, we're going to start with a big player here. Dale Daisy Thomas. I don't like you anymore. $341,800. No, look, we do wish the best for Daisy, and if you can overcome that ankle injury, even Collingwood supporters like myself, you've got to pick him in SuperCoach because he just knows how to score points.
Especially at the price he's at. I mean, mid-300 for a player that...
$341,800. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's absurd for how much he averaged in past years, especially... He's only a mid now, he's not a mid-forward, but for that price, you'd kind of be crazy not to pick him, especially since he avoids that dreaded buy round that's shared by all the premiums.
But, I mean, even then, do we think that he's going to start round one? That's the question.
If he's fit, then yeah, but... depends if he gets over his ankle.
And at the moment, if he plays... Look, the NAB Cup's going to tell us most, if anything, but I would be thinking that he won't be there round one. That's just my inkling.
I'm sure it's not a bit of Collingwood bias?
No, not a bit of Collingwood bias, but look, for example, you only have to go back to 2012. He averaged 96 in 2012, 109 in 2011, 94 in 2010... He's just a midfielder this year, though. That's something else to consider. If he was a forward, he'd be snapped up by basically everyone. But not to be, but we'll move on from there. St Kilda's now, not Hawthorn's now. Shane Savage, 341,600. He's $200 cheaper than Daisy and should play round 1.
He's in my team. He was one of the few that I put in straight away. So many times he was given the vest at Hawthorn, and that's not going to happen at St Kilda. He's probably going to take even more of a leadership role, so he's really going to get a lot of ball. He knows how to accumulate points.
He wanted that trade as well for more opportunity, and St Kilda are crying out for more midfielders who can really use the ball with polish. But, for example, in 2011 when he played 17 games and he wasn't the sub whatsoever, he averaged 76 points. So, again, 2012 he averaged 55, which is, again, sub-affected, and last year 15 games, which was 63 points, heavily sub-affected. Yeah. So you wouldn't be seeing that again at St Kilda, but if he is, if he's all right, goes through unscathed, lock him in and save yourself some cash because he'll be someone to really, really consider. Yep,
and we've got everyone talks about Dane Beams and how he's so underpriced this year. Not so much about his brother, Clay Beams.
Well, talk about underpriced.
Yeah, he's 180,
400.
Jesus. It's so cheap for him. I mean, we were talking about, in the last episode, how James Aish, is less likely to get a good score because he has such a high uncontested disposal count.
Yeah.
Clay Beams, he has a perfect mix. He's basically, mini Dane Beams. He's not going to score, your insane numbers. But I think, honestly, he could get 85 this year easily.
Without a doubt. If you revert back to his last couple of games in the 2012 season, he had a run home of 80, 103 and 115 and really, put Adelaide and the Western Bulldogs to the sword in that year. And you only have to look at that game against Adelaide, who went on to play in a prelim as well. He really knows how to use the ball. He's got a lot of attributes similar to Dane. And a lot of people were looking to him last year as a possible breakout player, but he started as a sub and then he obviously did his knee. This year I would be thinking that given the turnaround or turnover of players at Brisbane and the new coach, he's someone that won't ever go through that sub-affected game unless he's really returning.
Great job security. Yep. Hopefully he's completely over his knee by now.
I would think so, but we'll wait and see. Now, Melbourne's Viv Michie, there seems to be a bit of a theme going on here. There's a lot of players that have changed clubs that are on the cheap. Viv Michie at the D's, 172,600. He won, who was it? In 20... What? Was it? Yeah, last year. He won Peel's Best and Fairest in the Waffle.
He only played the one game, I believe, for Fremantle, and that's why he's not at bargain basement price.
Exactly.
Which I'm very frustrated. You shouldn't have done that.
Timmy Ross.
Yeah, I know. Ridiculous. But at Melbourne, he's a more mature player. He's really, more built up than a lot of Melbourne's players.
He's a ball-winning midfielder who obviously excels at the clearances and extracts the ball so well and gets involved with scoring chains. So when you think of Melbourne and you think of their need for some big bodies around the contest,
that's him.
He'll be thereabouts. So if he lines up round 1, again, he's cheaper than Jack Martin. So I'd have a strong look at him too. Now, Jared Polec, just to continue with the theme, 172,600, the same price as Michie, but I don't think the job security is there at the moment.
It's not there, and again, he's a little outside for me.
Yep.
He's got a great kick, and he can really cover a lot of ground really, really quickly. He's one of those 100-metre players, run 40, kick 60.
Yep.
But I don't think...
I think SuperCoach-wise at the moment, again, we touched on last episode that Port Adelaide's side is almost settled with their best 22, and of course there's going to be room to move, but Jared Polec started the pre-season a little sloppy, but he really did it. He really improved that, and now he's at the level that Ken Hinkley needs him to be at. So I don't doubt that he'll be given opportunity, because he will. It's whether or not that sustained opportunity to stay in the best 22, and that really comes down to him, because he'll be given the opportunity. He's got every option now to make sure that he stays in the best 22, but again, a NAB challenge for me. We need to see evidence of that before we go ahead.
And you have to question how much homesickness affected his performance at Brisbane. He's back in his home state now, and he was a number 5 draft pick. So you know he's a very, very good player. Back in the 2010 draft, I believe. So he's 21 now, 21, 22. So I think he's good, but he's not great. And
he's not someone I'm considering at the moment.
Yeah.
But if he's thereabouts, by all means, I'll take that back. But now we're having a look at another player who switched clubs, Xavier Ellis, the number 3 pick in the 2006 draft, from memory. 5 draft.
I think so.
Sorry, 5.
Yeah.
$159,100. Add some serious speed into the West Coast midfield.
Which they need.
And they picked him up as a delisted free agent. But I'm really...
Can he keep his body together? That's the question.
Well, he had those calf issues last year. He's had ankle injuries before that. He really probably struggled for continuity last year in the VFL. But by all reports in the West, his body is absolutely sound and he's really doing well this pre-season. He's probably benefiting from the fact that he's completed their first pre-season in a long time. So that's something to look at. Again, another player, if he's there round 1, but like we said last week in the episode, if you're looking at the midfield of the Eagles, where does Ellis fit that? And will he be used as a sub? That's the thing.
I think that's very likely, actually, for him to be used as the sub, because you've got Gaff running off one wing, and who would move up to the other wing? I mean, he could do
You'd probably
that.
say Maston, those sorts.
But I think with Wellingham out, it's probably between him and Sheed for that last spot, and then they would just shuffle players around to suit. But I think for what he is, I mean, he might be sound in terms of no injuries, but he's still quite scrawny, and I'm not a huge guy myself, but
speaking from the huge blokes.
Yeah, I know, right? He's had how many years in the system? 8, 9. And he's still quite slight in his body.
He's never been a big player.
Yeah, I know he's a winger sort of player, and he had a great 2008 grand final, but I struggle to see him performing. I really put a strong emphasis on the interchange cap and how much it's going to affect things, because I think there's going to be a lot more people that are required to do a utility role. For someone like Ellis that's just pigeonholed into wing and run all day and kick a mile, I don't think he's going to be as successful.
Good point. Very good point. Now we're moving on to the ruckman, which is possibly causing the biggest stir of SuperCoach this pre-season. We'll start with Brodie Grundy, 363,300, had an average of 73 points last year.
Debut season.
And he had no pre-season. He played a handful of games in the VFL. Stole Jolly's number 1 ruck spot, and didn't look back.
No, and he still got it.
And, on the off-season, he looks bigger, stronger, dominated the intra-club yesterday. You can mark him down as the number 1 ruckman at Collingwood. And historically speaking, the Pies don't really play a dual rucks like other clubs do. He'll go at it himself, but, I mean, looking at that, he almost picks himself. I know he's that awkward 363 price.
But you could save yourself a lot of money if you pick him in the ruck.
It's one area this year that you can save an absolute truckload to spend in other areas, especially considering we're a bit low on quality rookies in defence line this year, meaning that, as well as forward, which means that you can almost have, if you go with 2 mid-price players in the ruck, you can almost save yourself. That's what I've done. Save yourself some coin at either end of the ground. But Brodie Grundy, I think he'll be very well picked this year.
Yeah, I'm considering changing one of my picks to Grundy now, just to save a bit of money and maybe upgrade one of my defenders or mids. But,
well, he's got that average of 73 points. Now, he's put in a full pre-season. He's looking pretty good. I'm interested to see what his numbers are like during the NAB Cup now that he's had another pre-season under his belt, going into his second year. There's really not much else you can say apart from the fact that he's getting money for jam.
Yeah, hopefully his back stress fracture doesn't come back. That's what really kept him out a lot of his first season.
Yeah, his junior year he came in with that that stress fracture in his back. But as well, we're looking at another injured gun who's been a bookend for the last God,
Long
almost a decade. Aaron Sandilands, $310,700. Oh my God, can he hold his body together?
I don't think so. I'm not picking Sandilands. I know you only need, 6 or so games to get a benefit out of him, but I don't think he can hold it together for 6 rounds, and that's sad because he was really close to winning the Brownlow in 1 year. Like, he had an absolutely dominant season, and I wish he could get that back because I want to see Fremantle win a premiership. Not before Richmond, but you can still win one. And, you know, if he was priced a bit lower, maybe, but I think that's way too much to spend on an injury-prone ruckman.
It is a bit of a worry because he, at Turf Toes, kept him to 7 games last year and then 13 the year before, and he is declining in terms of how many games he can play out in a season. And when you've got guys like Hanneth is coming back from a knee, he'll be around the mid-year mark, he'll be back in. Obviously, Kepler-Bradley is another one who's come back from a knee. And then you've got Zach Clark, who mysteriously he had a PCL injury at Falls Festival. Happens to the best of us, that's all right.
And John O'Griffin as well.
And Griffin's there as well, who's came back from a knee too, isn't he? Jesus Christ, the knee club at Fremantle.
I know.
But look, if you need to have a look at Sandilands, need any more proof why you should really honestly consider him, he scored 112 against Geelong in the first qualifying final, 105 in the prelim against Sydney, and 125 in the grand final.
Very good.
Look, for someone that had limited games last season, I mean, look, he really came back in round 18 and then didn't miss a beat from there. But I think, again, one thing you have to take with Sandilands, and one thing you need to remember when you're picking Sandilands, is that at one stage you are going to have to trade him.
You will trade him.
You know, and that's the thing, is that if you can bank on him and roll the dice, I'm rolling the dice and hoping that he can return 6 to 8 good games at the start of the year, build some cash really quickly and score big like he does.
If he could get to the bye uninjured, that would be an amazing result.
If you can get to the bye and allow me to upgrade him to someone like your Goldstein or your Minson or McAvoy or somebody like that, job done.
Yeah.
But you start with Sandilands at the start of the year, knowing you will either have to upgrade him at some point or trade him because he's missed, or you know, that's the problem. So, but something to take into consideration now.
Speaking of injury-prone
ruckman, he has not played since the midway point of 2012.
Yeah.
Hamish McIntosh, 332, 900. Thoughts?
There's so many better options, in my opinion. I mean, I know Geelong have...
I love Hank.
I do. I like him as a player, but I think his body's just said, no more. I mean, you've got...
No deal.
No deal. You've got, Dawson Simpson, Brodie, Blitzarves had a great year for Geelong last year. So, I mean, even if they're not going to be rushing to get him in because they've got plenty of other capable
Well, he's
players.
having a very good pre-season.
He is.
He hasn't missed a beat, and considering in Wednesday week we're looking at, on the 12th anyway, the Pies are playing Geelong at Simmons Stadium.
So close to the footy.
I know, it's getting exciting. But Hamish McIntosh, if he plays in that NAB challenge and spends good amount of time in the ruck and doesn't look like he's a length behind Grundy, and he should be in front of Grundy as a seasoned ruckman.
I'd say if he draws even with Grundy, I'd say that'd be enough.
I think that for, what's his price? 332. If he lines up round 1 and he's got the NAB form to back up that reflects his standing in round 1, and Geelong will play him, and they parted ways with a top 30 pick.
There was their compensation pick.
Yeah. So I can see him being played early, but again, I'd probably at this stage prefer, for me, Hamish McIntosh over Sandilands. And there's really only 20k difference in both.
Yeah. I mean, if he shows that he's fit, I definitely have more trust in McIntosh than I do in Sandilands. Yes,
exactly. He's a bit younger. Sandilands is over the wrong side of 30 now.
Yep.
So, but moving on from there, another player who's jumped ship on the off season, Billy Longer at the Saints, 279, 300. I don't know what to think of this one.
I don't know, he's a good player. He's a really good player, and people are saying, pick him on the bench even if you can't fit him onto the field.
It's a lot of money to have on the bench.
That's a lot of money to have on the bench. Same with people. I've seen people picking Sandilands on the bench, and I'm thinking, no, do not do that. No. So he's likely to be the number 2 ruckman at St Kilda, maybe equal one with Hickey.
If they use the combination of them both,
I don't think that'll be enough scoring.
I don't think either. We saw that when he was at Brisbane. He struggled when he played in the same side as Lillenberger.
I think he needs to be number 1, the number 1.
Yeah.
If touch wood, Hickey gets injured, then I would strongly consider Longer. But at the moment,
But even then, another thing you've got to take into consideration as well is that if we rewind 12 months back to this time last year, Matthew Lillenberger was injured in pre-season.
Yep.
And everyone was saying, Billy Longer, Billy Longer, Billy Longer.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Longer started, and he did not impress me
He played one game, I believe.
One bit last year, and even then, when he had the opportunity to play as the number 1 ruckman, it just didn't work out for him.
He was still a bit young there. You got to cut him some slack. He's a baby in ruckman terms. So you can't really base his first few seasons off that. I think even this season you could cut him a bit of slack. Next season...
Well, look, he hasn't even played 10 games yet.
Next season you really need to start performing, Billy. Come on.
He's pretty much, I think the highest score he's ever had is 55.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to take into consideration. But we know what he's got, and historically speaking, the big guys, they take longer.
Everyone said it.
Exactly. But coming into the forward line, now if this guy can get his body right, he will be an absolute steal this year. Mitch Clark, $249,200, but he's not even training with the main group.
No, I really hope he gets it on, not just for SuperCoach, but for him in general. He seems like a nice guy.
Or Melbourne supporters as well could do with
Pick 11 that they traded for him, and then to get not that much out of him. When he does play, he plays great. When he doesn't, you've wasted a first-round pick.
Well, we know what he's capable of. We know that he can score highly. He does fantastic things at ground level. He takes great marks. He's agile. He's one of the best centre. I would say that at his best, he's probably up there as the best centre half forward of the competition.
One of the best.
He does all the good things, and if he can get his body right, I hope. But at the moment, I've had to take him out of my team because on the news he's not training with the main squad. I can't afford... If he's there round 1, well, then he's in. I don't care.
Yeah.
But at the moment, no.
It's way too close to the season to not be training in the main group. Now, moving on to your love child.
My love child, hello. Jed Lamb, $244,500. You can save yourself about $6,000 here to downgrade Mitch Clark to Jed Lamb. But Jeddah is going to be in the best 18. Don't worry about the 22. It'll be the best 18. He has a forward spot sewn up there, and considering that he does play a lot like Stevie J, in the sense that he can play almost as a third tall, but he is a bona fide gun at ground level that just kicks goals from everywhere. He's good from a set shot, he's good from on the run, and he's great off a step from the boundary too. So he's everything that GWS don't have. And the fact that they got him for nothing is mystifying. But you can lock him in.
Well, basically, lock him in now, and then if Mitch Clark plays and you have a little cash to play with and you're tossing up between the two, you can just make that decision when the time comes.
Of course, yeah.
So, just put one of them in for now.
Now, if, we're going down the line here, that even if Jed Lamb isn't up your alley, Alex Fasolo may be. $213,600.
That's cheap as chips.
He's cheap considering the output that we got. Now, he got through Collingwood's intra-club match yesterday quite all right. And he's pretty much, I guess, in the way of that other forward at the Pies. He's probably first pick after to come into the side after guys like Elliott and Blair and the like. So, Faz will be in Collingwood's best 22 at some point. Whether it's really that early on, they may bring him back through the VFL, but he, it's a bit touch and go at the moment for me. I'm not giving him much thought at the moment as a Collingwood supporter.
No, he doesn't.
Probably means you shouldn't either.
He's pretty much He's a mark kick goal forward, not a crummer and not a roaming forward enough for me.
There's a lot of talk at the moment that he'll feature in the midfield rotations, and Collingwood have been playing him actually quite a bit out of half-back too. So, again, we need to see evidence of that from the NAB challenge, but for me, he's a no-go at this stage. Going down the line again, Nathan Bock. This guy, talk about players that need luck. He needs some luck. Nathan Bock, 196,900. What are your thoughts there?
For sub 200k to get a player of Bock's quality, you'd be insane not to pick him if he lines up round 1. Because he is very, very, very capable of scoring 90 plus on the regular. So he's a lock for mine if he's lining up round 1.
I like him. I mean, look, he only played 2 games last year, and 4 games the year before, but you only have to go back to 2011 when he was averaging 93, and then the year before that 83, and then basically every year before then in the 90s. So
100 in 2009, which is very, very good. And he was playing as a back then, but he's shown that he's very capable playing back or forward.
Yep.
So again, I keep harping on about this. Interchange cap. Versatility will get you a long way.
And Bock's got that in spades. So he's gotten through this pre-season absolutely fine. He's basically been doing all the main stuff with the main group. He has been alternating between half-back and half-forward. It's probably an area up forward I guess the Suns could probably use a little bit of work on. We saw Thompson had a great year last year as a defender, but if Bock is ready and raring to go, then so should every coach in the competition because, as you said, versatility, limited interchange cap, give him a look in. And the last player we're going to touch on in today's podcast, Gary Rowan, $176,200.
Yeah.
Well, he's definitely not going to be the sub this year.
No, he's... if he's not over his injury, they've done something wrong, the medical staff at Sydney, because he's a jet. He's a number 6 draft pick back in 2009, I want to say.
Yep.
And for 176, he's certainly capable of scoring.
He would have been lower than that if he didn't come back last year.
Yeah.
So.
Come on, Rowan. Get it.
I know. But he's someone, again, that you can probably consider. And he's probably around that price where it's probably okay to use him on your bench.
Yeah, I mean...
Especially when we're looking at guys, as we touched on in the last podcast, with between Impey, Honeychurch, Garlett and Taylor, who were all the sort of same type and all could be in line for vests.
Yeah.
Rowan is someone who won't be. And it's probably good insurance on your bench as well.
And he's had enough time after the injury now to really build up his tank, so he can move to the wing. He can move to a roaming half forward rather than just, stay at home half forward sort of role. I
think so too. But that's all we've got time for today. We're going to be back with another couple of podcasts later on regarding our cheaper premium players and, of course, our bona fide premium guns. So there's plenty of SuperCoach content to get you through right up until the first bounce. Until then, we'll catch you later.
Have fun.